So this video is going to go over using the sine rule for an angle this time. So just before I go on to finding angles, I'm just going to quickly recap using it to find a side. So these two here are opposite, these two here are opposite, and so we just do x over sine 120 equals 5 over sine 41. And then to get rid of that, we times by sine 120. So to get x, you just times that by sine 120. And I also just quite quickly wanted to go over this question here. So on this question, which was the last one that you did yesterday, these two are opposites here, and then x is actually opposite this angle here at the top. And so the first thing you'd have to do is work out what that angle there at the top is. And so you just use the fact that angles in a triangle add up to 180. And so this makes the angle at the top here 97 degrees. And after that, you would carry on in the same way as before. So you would do x over sine 97 equals 11 over sine 32. And so then you would just work out that and times it by the sine 97 to get x. So moving on from that now, we're going to look at how you use the sine rule to work out an angle. So this is the format that we use it now for when we're trying to find an angle, and you'll notice that the fractions have now been flipped over. So we now have sine capital A on the top and then the small lowercase a underneath. So when you're trying to find an angle, you always want to use the formula this way around, just because it makes it a lot easier to rearrange later on when you're halfway through the problem. So the starting point is exactly the same in that you're trying to pair up your opposite sides. So the 14 is opposite the 120 and the x is opposite the 5. So the only thing now that's different when we're trying to find an angle is that rather than writing 5 over sine x, it's now going to be sine x over 5. So we're just doing it the other way around. So sine x over 5 equals, and it will be, again, rather than 14 over sine 120, it's going to be sine 120 over 14. So it's very similar to finding a side. So to get rid of this bit, we're going to have to times by 5. So if we times by 5, that gets rid of it on this side, and we get that now. So if we work this out, so sine 120 over 14, and then times that by 5. And so you can see the answer here is really small, isn't it? So you get 0.3092947871. So it's not going to be that the angle is that small, so it's a bit like normal trigonometry. What you've actually found is the sine of the angle. We don't want the sine of the angle, we just want the angle x. So to get rid of the sine part, we need to do sine to the minus 1. And then I would just use your answer button, and you should have that number already saved. So on mine now, if I just show you, I can do shift, sine, press your answer button, which is down the bottom there, close your bracket, and so the angle then should be 18.02 if we do it to 2 decimal places. So the next one, then, just for another example, in a minute, the third one that I do is going to be a little bit different. So if you're fine with this one and you want to skip over this one, it's worth just making sure you watch the very last example. So this one, 15 and 120 are opposite. These are opposite. So again, if I start with the x, so sine x over 12 equals sine 120, and then that's over 15. So again, to work out what sine x is, I need to get rid of this divide by 12, so times by 12. So let's work out what that is then. So sine 120 over 15 times by 12, which is this answer. But again, that's not going to be your angle, that's the sine of the angle that we've worked out. So we now need to do sine to the minus 1 of your answer. And so that gets me 43.85 degrees. So the final one, I'd say it's just a little bit different, just a bit more of an awkward case. So with this one, you can see that x is opposite a side that we don't know. So we can't put that into the sine rule at the moment because we don't know what that side is. However, we do know that the 10 is opposite the 35, and the 6 would be opposite this angle up here. So if I call that angle y, the 6 would be opposite that one there. Now if we work out what this one here is, using the 6 to help us, then we can use angles in a triangle adding up to 180 to work out what this one here is. So the first thing I'm going to do is say, well, 10 over, oh sorry, other way around because I'm finding an angle, see, you've got to be careful. So sine 35 over 10 rather than 10 over 30, sine 35, and that equals, and I want to put my angle, so we're going to work out this one here first, aren't we? So sine y over 6. So again, I'm going to times by 6, so sine 35 over 10 times by 6, that's going to tell me what angle y is. So sine 35 over 10 times by 6. So again, you get that really small answer. So we're going to have to do sine to the minus 1 of the answer. So that gives me 20.13 degrees. And so now, if I know that this one here is 20.13 degrees, I can now work out what this one is, because it's just simple angles in a triangle add up to 180. So it'll just be 180 minus 35 plus 20.13. So 35 plus 20. And so this angle here is 124.87. Sorry, I just realised you can't actually see that. There you go. So angle X would be that. So it's just using the fact that angles in a triangle add up to 180. So it's always worth checking it. If you can't work out the angle that you're trying to, can you work out the other one? And then you can just use the fact that they add up to 180.